You're going to come across realtors who have dealt with a wholesaler before. Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Moretta, and today I want to go over the difference between the assignment and the double close. Because as we all know as wholesalers, that there's going to be a point in time when you cannot assign the contract. It can be for different reasons, but especially now, we've come a long way from wholesaling, from the start of wholesaling, and I feel like today, especially since compared to 5 years ago, a lot of people are aware of what wholesaling is and the different tactics that us as wholesalers that we do, and especially real estate agents. Okay, and I've come across many real estate agents that know exactly what we're doing from the start, only because they've dealt with a wholesaler before, right? They've dealt with somebody who wasted their time. And, there's not a lot of things you can do. We do provide a lot of training to not just sound, but to come across a very professional way, unlike most wholesalers do, to really let the seller or the realtor understand that we are on top of everything. But there's going to be a point in time where you cannot assign the contract. So what do we do then, right? If you cannot assign the contract, usually there's a realtor involved. Okay, that's almost 99% of the time. That's going to be the case. There's going to be a realtor involved who does not want you to assign the contract. Another time that you might not be able to sign the contract is when there's a lawyer involved. So either a lawyer or a realtor, right? These are the two people that are going to prevent you from signing the contract. And then, of course, there's the real estate owned, the REOs, where you cannot assign those either way because the bank owns them and the bank will not let you assign those. So there is another way. You can still make money from these deals. You just cannot assign the contract. So that's when the double close comes into play, right? So a double close. So let's kind of go start from the beginning. Let's look at what the overview of an assignment. Right. So when do we do an assignment? Right. So we do the assignment when we have a fully executed purchase contract with the seller. Right. And then we have a buyer ready to buy. So then we're going to go ahead and sign the contract over using the assignment contract. Right. So why do we do assignments? It's simple, guys. Assignments are probably the most simple thing you can do when it comes to real estate. It's fast and it requires zero funds, right? You don't even have to put the earnest money deposit, right? If you follow our strategy, there's zero money out of pocket. But these are the reasons why we do the assignment. So let's look at the two types of contracts. And remember, guys, I'm talking solely on the California real estate market. If you're watching this and you're in a different state, I highly recommend that you go to the DRE website for your state and look at the different contract requirements for the assignment process, right? But here in California, we use two contracts. We use the residential purchase agreement, which I'm sure every state uses, and then we use something called the AOAA, which stands for the Assignment of Agreement Addendum. So we use these two contracts. The RPA is between us and the seller, and the AOAA is the official assignment contract for the California Association of Realtors, which transfers the rights from us over to the end buyer, right? So with these two contracts, we can go ahead and collect an assignment fee, and the assignment fee is actually recorded right here on the assignment contract, right? Okay, so this is kind of a general idea of what the assignment looks like, right? We have the wholesaler, which is us. We have the seller. We have the contract, the RPA that connects both of us together. And then we have the end buyer down here with all the money. And then we go ahead and assign it over to them using the AOAA. Okay. So if we get the property for $500,000 from the seller, and then we assign it over to the end buyer for $25,000, then the buyer is paying a total of $525,000. Right. So that's the purchase price that you would market to your buyer if you want to make a $25,000 assignment fee. Okay, so why do we assign? It's fast. It's great for beginners. If you've never done a wholesale deal before, highly recommend that you start with an assignment. I only say this because a few things. One, you really do not need any money up front, guys. Okay. Um, Assigning a contract, all it requires is for two pieces to be in place before any money is even on the table. It requires $0. And let's talk a little bit about earnest money, okay? So, also known as good faith deposit, this is the sum of the money a buyer pays a seller when signing a purchase agreement. This makes the purchase agreement binding. Okay, without an earnest money deposit, there is no legally binding contract, right? In the state of California, for example, we have 3 days by default to put our earnest money deposit. So in California, you guys, with our 3 days to put the earnest money deposit, we use that as our inspection period. Every state's a little different, so I would highly suggest that you go to your DRE website for your state and you check the requirements of when the earnest money deposit is due. But we have 3 days here in California, so we, as a company, we use the 3 days as an inspection period. So the buyer essentially puts in the earnest money deposit during those 3 days when we have the contract with the seller. So we have the contract with the seller, we have the AOAA with the buyer, and as soon as the buyer signs the AOAA, we go ahead and have the buyer wire the earnest money deposit to escrow. As soon as the earnest money deposit's in escrow, then we go ahead and have the seller sign the AOAA. For those of you who are a little confused, I'm going to do a whole other video on how exactly the assignment process works, because we do need the seller's signature on the AOAA. So if you're curious about that, please look at the description for that video. So now let's look at the double close, right? In some states, it's called the concurrent close, and I'll tell you why in a bit. So what is a double close? So it's two simultaneous transactions in two separate escrows, right? We have the A to B contract. We have the B and C contract, right? In the middle is the wholesaler, which is us, okay, and the property. So when do we use a double close? We use it when there's court confirmation, right? If there's court confirmation, there's a lawyer involved, and the lawyer and the judge would not allow assignments, so we're going to have to go ahead and double close. An REO or bank-owned sale, most REOs and most bank managers will not allow assignments, so this is a perfect place to use the double close method. And no assignment clause. So, like I said before, there's going to be a realtor here and there who has dealt with a wholesaler and does not want to go through all that again. So they're going to add to their contract the no assignment clause. So it's going to say, no, this property is this contract is non-assignable. Right? There's nothing we can do. It's not worth fighting. Just do a double close. So why do we use it? So it's much more privacy. Okay, so the other party, the seller party, the buying party doesn't know what each other is doing, right? There's a track record, right? As when you do a double close, you're actually purchasing the property. So either your name or your LLC, your corporation is actually going to go untitled, right? Even though it's just for 24 hours, you're actually going to own that property for 24 hours. So you're going to be able to look in the chain of title and see your name on the chain of title, which is great. And it gives you way more control, guys. Like I said, I'm going to do a whole nother video on assignments, but when you do an assignment, guys, as soon as you assign the property over to the end buyer, you have zero control. And if the escrow and title company is not on your side, you're not going to know what's going on until the close of escrow, right? Not every title or escrow company is going to keep you in the loop. So that's another reason why it's great to have a relationship with an escrow and title company that you can trust, right? As a wholesaler, it's super important. So let's go back to the assignment really quick. This is what it looks like. right? It's going to be the wholesaler and the seller, they're going to sign an RPA, and then the buyer and the wholesaler are going to sign the AOAA, right? Now let's look at a double close example. The wholesaler and the seller are going to purchase the property for 500,000. Then the wholesaler and the end buyer are going. The buyer is going to buy the property from the wholesaler at 525,000. So how do we do this? Okay, so one, we need a transactional lender. We need to actually purchase the property. We need $500,000 to purchase the property from the seller. Okay, so that's where a transactional lender will come into play. Okay, we need a gator lender because most transactional lenders do not own on the earnest money deposit unless you have, $15,000 in the bank. You will need a gator lender to help provide you those funds. And I would highly recommend you get a trained, experienced transactional coordinator, also known as a TC. So let's go ahead and recap on what we just talked about today. So we know that there's two different ways to complete a wholesale deal. The first one's the assignment, which if you're a beginner is probably the best way to start, right? If you've never done a wholesale deal before, highly recommend that you do an assignment. But like I mentioned before, there's going to be many instances where the assignment's not going to be possible. The more you do this, the more you're going to run into those. But it's double close is just another tool in your toolbox, right? As for the double close, transactional lending, right? It's super important that you meet transactional lenders now, right? And they're easy to find, they're out there, but it's great to know or have a transactional lender in the back of your pocket, because as soon as you get a deal accepted, you're going to need those funds relatively fast. As well as gator lenders, right? Gator lenders are the ones who are going to save you from having to break it to the agent that you didn't really have any money to begin with, right? So if you're going to make an offer with $15,000 as an earnest money deposit, you have 3 days to put that money into escrow. So it's great to know some gator lenders who will go ahead and lend to you. They both charge interest, so definitely talk to them about what that looks like. And transaction coordinator. We need someone to facilitate the whole thing because it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of transferring from one escrow to the other, right? So we have to know what we're doing, right? If we don't know what we're doing, things can mess up and get a little messy, right? So everybody, that's my 2 cents for the assignments and the double closes. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the little notification button. And then I'll see you guys at the next one.